A 7-story stone wall 20 miles long, buried under a quiet Texas field, and nobody knows who built it. Now picture this, paintings older than the pyramids of Egypt, a buried site proving humans walked Texas soil 20,000 years ago, thousands of years before history books said anyone was here at all. Here's the unsettling part. The people who raised these massive structures, they vanished. No warning, no explanation. They left behind temples, masks, and giant earthen mounds, and then simply disappeared into thin air. What were they trying to tell us? What were they so afraid of? And why can't the smartest scientists alive today explain any of it? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see Texas in a way that'll keep you up tonight. And number 6 forced experts to rewrite the entire history of America. Number 1, the Rock Wall of Rockwall. Let's start with the mystery so baffling it gave an entire Texas county its name. Picture the year 1852. A group of farmers near Dallas are digging a simple water well. Nothing unusual, just men, shovels, and dirt. Then, clank. Their tools strike something hard, something solid. As they clear away the soil, their jaws drop. It's a wall, and not a pile of random rocks. This thing is layered, stacked, and almost perfectly straight, like someone carefully cemented blocks together by hand. The deeper they dig, the more impossible it gets. The wall doesn't stop. It runs for miles beneath the ground, rising in places up to 7 stories tall. And here's the part that sent chills down their spines. Some sections appear to have windows and doorways, as if it were once part of a massive ancient building. The settlers were so convinced humans built it that they named their town one simple, haunting word: Rockwall. Now here's what science says. Most geologists today call it a sandstone clastic dike, a natural formation created when sediment got forced up into cracks in the earth long ago. They argue the straight lines and brick pattern are just nature playing tricks, the result of how the rock layered and cracked over time. Case closed, right? Not so fast. Because here's what no one can fully settle. Not everyone agrees. Some researchers point to features that don't behave the way a normal natural dike should. Angles and structures that look just a little too deliberate. And after more than 170 years of digging, arguing, and studying, the debate is still not closed. So what is it really? A freak of geology? Or the buried bones of something far older than we're ready to admit? You can actually visit it. The Rockwall County Historical Museum keeps pieces of the wall on display, and you can decide for yourself. Number 2, the White Shaman Mural. Now let's travel southwest into the rugged lower Pecos Canyonlands, a place so remote and so silent that when you stand there, it feels like the modern world simply stops. Hidden in a limestone rock shelter is a painting that will completely change how you think about ancient people. It's called the White Shaman Mural, and it stretches an incredible 300 feet across the rock face. We're talking about artwork that's roughly 2,000 to 2,500 years old, created long before most of the cities you've ever heard of even existed. But here's where it gets fascinating. For years, people assumed ancient rock art was just random scribbles. A deer here, a handprint there. Then archaeologist Carolyn Boyd spent years studying this mural up close, and what she discovered was stunning. This isn't random at all. It's a single, deliberate composition, possibly one of the oldest books in all of the Americas. Boyd argues the entire panel tells a complete creation story, the birth of the sun, the beginning of time itself. Every figure, every color, every position appears to mean something specific. It's an ancient cosmology painted in stone. And now for the part that gives me goosebumps. Out of more than 300 rock art sites in this entire region, the White Shaman is the only one that appears to have a special solar alignment, positioned, it seems, intentionally with the sun. How did a society without modern tools track the heavens so precisely? And why this spot out of hundreds? The mystery here isn't just who painted it, it's the unsettling realization that these so-called simple people were deep thinkers, encoding the secrets of the universe into a cliff face thousands of years ago. You can actually see it for yourself through the Whitty Museum's White Shaman Preserve tours. Just be warned. Once you understand what you're looking at, you'll never see rock art the same way again. Number 3, the Caddo Mounds at Alto. Deep in the piney woods of East Texas, near the small town of Alto, There's something that stops travelers in their tracks. Rising out of the flat, forested landscape are three large, grass-covered hills. At first glance, you'd swear they were just part of nature, gentle bumps in the earth. But they're not, and that's exactly what makes them so unsettling. These hills were built by hand. More than 1,200 years ago, the ancestral Caddo people, a sophisticated group known as the Hassanai, carried dirt one basket at a time, day after day, year after year, slowly raising these enormous mounds from the ground up. Think about the sheer willpower that takes. No machines, no wheels, just human hands, faith, and a vision. And these weren't random piles. Two of the mounds were temple platforms, where ceremonies and leadership took place. The third was a burial mound, a sacred resting place. Around them sprawled a thriving village and ceremonial center, a beating heart of culture and trade. While medieval Europe was still stumbling through the Dark Ages, an organized monument-building society was flourishing right here in Texas. So here's the mystery that still haunts researchers. Why did they leave? This entire ceremonial center was abandoned centuries before Europeans ever arrived. A whole society, gone. Was it drought, disease, a shift in power or belief? The full story of why these people walked away from everything they built remains unsolved to this day. And there's something deeper to sit with here. The next time someone tells you nothing ancient ever happened in America, remember these mounds. Remember the hands that built them. This land holds far more history than most of us were ever taught. You can walk this sacred ground yourself at the Caddo Mounds State Historic Site. Just remember, to the Caddo people, this place is still holy. Number 4. The Masks of Hueco Tanks. Now we head far out west near El Paso to a cluster of giant rock formations rising out of the desert like ancient sleeping giants. This place is called Hueco Tanks, and hidden deep within it is a chamber that has unsettled visitors for generations. Its name alone sets the mood. Cave Kiva. Step inside and the temperature drops, the light fades, and then you see them. Faces, staring back at you from the rock. Painted in deep reds and yellows are at least 8 ancient masks. Not animals, not handprints, but faces, with hollow eyes that seem to follow you across the chamber. They were created by the Jornada Mogollon people, a skilled farming society that lived in this region from roughly 200 to 1450 AD. That means some of these masks have been watching over this cave for more than 1,000 years. Now here's the chilling question that nobody can answer. What or who do these faces represent? Researchers strongly believe they depict deities or powerful ceremonial spirits, beings the Jornada Mogollon may have worshipped, feared, or called upon in sacred rituals. But the exact meaning of these specific masks? It's lost, gone with the people who painted them. We can date the art, we can study the pigments, but we can't read the message. Imagine the scene, firelight flickering against the walls, voices chanting, and these 8 faces glowing in the dark. Present at ceremonies we can only imagine. Stand in that cave today and you'll feel it instantly. Someone was reaching out to the divine in the exact spot where you're standing. That's the eerie power of Hueco Tanks. It's not just art. It's a doorway into a spiritual world we'll never fully understand. You can visit through Hueco Tanks State Historic Site, where guided tours protect these fragile faces, so they can keep staring back for centuries to come. Number 5. The Paint Rock Pictographs. Picture a towering 70-foot limestone cliff rising along the banks of the Concho River in west-central Texas. From a distance, it looks like an ordinary rock wall. But get closer, and the entire face of that bluff comes alive. Welcome to Paint Rock, home to the most remarkable rock art collection on the Edwards Plateau and one of the largest in the entire state. We're not talking about a few faded drawings here. This cliff is covered in over 1,500 individual paintings. Let that number sink in. 1,500. There are animals frozen mid-stride, human figures, handprints pressed against the stone, like someone reaching out across thousands of years to say, I was here. There are stars, shapes, and symbols that no one alive has ever decoded. And one image is especially strange. It appears to show a boat or a canoe. which actually makes a haunting kind of sense, because the Concho River flows just a few hundred yards away, but it raises big questions about how these ancient people lived, traveled, and saw their world. Here's what makes Paint Rock a true mystery. These paintings weren't made all at once. They span thousands of years, created by multiple different cultures, layered one on top of another like an ancient message board, generation after generation, leaving their mark on the very same wall. Imagine it, a prehistoric conversation stretching across the centuries, each group adding their own voice. And the unsettling part? We can't fully read it. We can see the words, but we've lost the language. Decoding that entire conversation remains incomplete to this day. What were they trying to tell the future? What were they trying to tell us? The good news, you can actually go see it. But here's a practical tip. Paint Rock sits on private ranch land, so you'll need to schedule a tour. And honestly, that's exactly why it survived so beautifully. Number 6, the Gault Site, the one that rewrote history. All right, this is the one I promised you at the very beginning. The discovery so shocking it forced scientists to tear up the history books and start over. So pay close attention. Just north of Austin, near the small town of Florence, sits a place called the Gault Site. From the surface, it looks like nothing, just ordinary Texas ground. But buried beneath that dirt is evidence that completely shatters what we thought we knew about the first Americans. For nearly the entire 20th century, textbooks taught one fact as absolute truth. The Clovis people were the first humans in the Americas, arriving around 13,000 years ago. That was the rule, the settled science. Nobody came before Clovis. End of story. Then archaeologists started digging at Gault, and what they found didn't make sense. Beneath the Clovis layers, deeper, older, underneath what was supposed to be the very beginning, they uncovered stone tools, artifacts left by human hands, and these tools dated back at least 16,000 years, possibly as far as 20,000 years ago. Read that again. Humans were living, hunting, and making tools on Texas soil thousands of years before anyone thought a single person had set foot in the Americas. In one stroke, Gault broke the rule that had stood for a century. And here's the mystery that still keeps experts up at night. Who were these people? Where did they come from? And how on earth did they get here so much earlier than anyone believed possible? If they truly came before Clovis, then the entire migration story of the Americas, how humans first arrived on these two continents, is suddenly wide open again. This is one of the most important archaeological sites in the entire Western Hemisphere. And yet, most people have never even heard its name. But now you have. And you'll never look at Texas the same way again. Number 7, the Medicine Mounds. Now picture this, you're standing in the wide, flat plains of North Texas. For miles in every direction, the land is pancake level, nothing but open sky and empty horizon. And then suddenly, rising out of that flatness like something from another world, 4 massive mounds. These are the Medicine Mounds, 4 dome-shaped hills made of dolomite rock, the tallest standing nearly 1,700 feet high. In a landscape this flat, they don't just look impressive, they look impossible, almost as if they were placed there on purpose by some unseen hand. And to the Comanche people, that's not far from the truth. To them, these weren't just hills, they were sacred. The Comanche believed the mounds were the dwelling place of powerful, benevolent spirits, beings that lived on the peaks and held the power to heal the sick. People would make the journey here to climb the slopes, gather medicinal plants, drink from the natural springs, and seek spiritual renewal. It was a place of healing, of connection, of something far greater than themselves. And here's what gives this place its quiet power. That tradition never died. To this day, the Comanche still regard these mounds as holy ground. So where's the mystery? It's not who built them. Nature did that over countless ages. The real question is far stranger. Why this exact spot? Out of an entire endless prairie, why did these 4 mounds become so deeply sacred, generation after generation? And how was that spiritual knowledge, the plants, the prayers, the meaning, passed down so faithfully across so many lifetimes? There's a haunting answer the Comanche themselves give. They say some things are simply older than history, older than memory, older than us. Stand at the base of these mounds, feel the wind sweep across the plains, and you'll understand exactly what they mean. Some places don't just hold history, they hold power. Number 8. The Alibates flint quarries. Way up in the Texas Panhandle in a quiet, windswept corner of the state lies something that holds an incredible record. It's not the biggest, it's not the tallest, but it might be one of the oldest work sites in all of North America. Welcome to the Alibates flint quarries, a place where human hands have been digging into the earth for an almost unimaginable 13,000 years. Think about that timeline. 13,000 years of people coming to this exact spot, generation after generation, for one reason: the stone. Because buried here is a truly special kind of flint, a beautiful rainbow-striped rock swirling with reds, oranges, purples, and whites. It wasn't just pretty, it was strong, and it could be chipped into razor-sharp edges. Perfect for tools, perfect for survival. And here's the part that sends a chill down your spine. We know that mammoth hunters mined this very flint. Picture it: ancient people, spears in hand, carving weapons from these colorful stones to take down beasts the size of a school bus. But the real mystery? How far this stone traveled. Archaeologists have found tools made from Alibates flint hundreds of miles away from the quarry. That's not an accident. That means these ancient people had vast trade networks, connections stretching across enormous distances long before roads, maps, or written language existed. And that opens up questions we still can't fully answer. Just how far did this stone really go? Who carried it? And maybe the biggest one of all, what did these ancient people trade for it in return? What was so valuable that someone would haul this flint across half a continent? The full map of that prehistoric economy is still being pieced together, fragment by fragment. Today it's protected as a national monument, a humble little site in the Panhandle that quietly holds one of the oldest, most far-reaching secrets in America. Number 9. The Pecos River panels of Seminole Canyon. Let's head back to the wild, remote canyon lands of the lower Pecos, to a place called Seminole Canyon, where the limestone walls hide some of the oldest rock art in all of North America. And brand new research is turning everything we thought we knew completely upside down. For years, scholars debated just how old these paintings really were. But recent studies suggest these stunning multicolored murals, known as the Pecos River style, may date back an astonishing 6,000 years. 6,000. That's older than the Great Pyramids, older than written history itself. People stood in these canyons, mixed their pigments, and painted these images 6 millennia ago. And we can still see them today. But here's the discovery that genuinely stunned researchers in 2025. Some scholars now argue that this ancient Texas art tradition may have actually influenced the great religions of Mesoamerica, the belief systems of cultures far to the south, like those that would later shape the Maya and Aztec worlds. Think about what that means. We've always assumed sophisticated ideas flowed north into America from those grand southern civilizations. But this suggests the current may have run the opposite direction, ideas and beliefs flowing southward, possibly born right here in the canyons of Texas. And that's the deep mystery. These weren't mighty empires with armies and palaces. These were forager societies, small bands of people living off the land. So how did they create a religious and artistic tradition so powerful, so meaningful, that it survived for thousands of years and possibly spread across entire civilizations? Researchers call this tradition unbroken, a continuous thread of art and belief stretching back across the ages, passed from generation to generation without ever truly breaking. Who were they? What did they believe? And how did the visions of a few desert foragers ripple out to shape half a continent? We may never fully know. Number 10. Enchanted Rock. Out in the heart of the Texas Hill Country rises a giant, a massive glowing dome of pink granite, standing an incredible 425 feet tall. Bald, ancient, and impossible to ignore. People have been drawn to it for thousands of years, and for just as long it's carried a single, haunting nickname: Enchanted. It's been called Enchanted Rock since the 1800s, and once you spend a night near it, you'll understand exactly why. Because when the sun goes down, the rock comes alive. In the dark, this enormous granite dome begins to creak and groan. Strange, low sounds echo across the hillside, moans that seem to rise out of the stone itself. To the early people who camped here, there was only one explanation. The rock was haunted. Something, or someone, was trapped inside. Now here's the science, and it's genuinely fascinating. During the day, the sun heats that massive slab of granite, causing it to slowly expand. Then at night, as the desert air cools, the rock contracts, and that shifting, settling movement produces those eerie creaks and groans. A natural process, a simple explanation. But the legends? They never cared about the science. Over the centuries, the stories piled higher and higher. Tales of ghostly fires flickering on the summit, a native chief who is said to have sacrificed his own daughter atop the dome, doomed to wander it forever in grief, and a woman kidnapped and lost whose screams still echo from the peak on the darkest nights. Here's what makes Enchanted Rock so perfect for our list. It's a living example of how a real natural phenomenon becomes a legend that refuses to die. The mystery isn't really what makes the sound, it's why this place has gripped the human imagination so powerfully for so long. So here's a dare. Go camp there, wait for nightfall, and listen. Then tell me you're not just a little bit spooked. Number 11, the Paluxy Man Tracks. Now we head to Glen Rose, Texas, a quiet little town with a riverbed that sparked one of the most explosive controversies in scientific history. It starts with something real and genuinely incredible. The Paluxy River cuts through ancient Cretaceous limestone, and pressed into that stone are real dinosaur footprints. We're talking authentic tracks left by enormous creatures that walked here over 100 million years ago, when this was the muddy edge of a prehistoric ocean. You can literally walk in their footsteps today. It's a scientific treasure. But in the 1930s, things took a strange turn. Locals began reporting something impossible. Right beside the dinosaur tracks, they claimed to find human footprints, big ones. And if that were true, if humans and dinosaurs really walked side by side, it would shatter everything we know about the timeline of life on Earth. It would mean people and dinosaurs lived at the same time, separated not by 100 million years, but by nothing at all. The discovery exploded into a massive debate. The so-called man tracks became famous, sparking arguments that still echo today. So what's the truth? The explanation most scientists now accept is far less mystical, but no less fascinating. They believe the human prints are actually eroded dinosaur tracks that lost their shape over time, misidentified natural marks, or in some cases, carvings made by people. In other words, not human footprints at all. And yet, the legend simply refuses to die. To this day, people still travel to Glen Rose convinced the truth is being hidden. That's what makes this one so compelling. It's not just a story about footprints. It's a powerful case study in how we humans see what we want to see. If you visit Dinosaur Valley State Park, you can decide for yourself. The real dinosaur tracks alone are absolutely jaw-dropping and well worth the trip. Number 12, the stone structures of Big Bend. Now we travel to one of the most rugged, remote, and downright unforgiving places in all of Texas, Big Bend National Park. This is a land of jagged canyons, scorching desert, and silence so deep it feels ancient. It's the kind of place where you'd expect to find nothing but rock and sky. But you'd be wrong. Deep within the park, in a remote western corner at a site called Cuesta Arriba, archaeologists made a discovery that raises far more questions than answers. Scattered across this brutal desert landscape, they documented prehistoric stone structures, deliberate constructions built by human hands, and they weren't alone. Right alongside them were ancient hearths where fires once burned, grinding mortars worn smooth from preparing food, and rock art etched into stone faces. This wasn't a passing campsite. People lived here. They built here. They survived here. And that's exactly the mystery. Who builds permanent stone structures in a place this harsh? A landscape this dry, this hot, this isolated? How did anyone not just survive, but settle down and construct something meant to last? It gets even more intriguing. A separate discovery elsewhere in Big Bend revealed something that genuinely surprised researchers: an ancient modular hunting kit. It included replaceable stone-tip foreshafts, pieces that could be swapped out and repaired when they broke. Think about that. This is smart, adaptable technology, engineering really, created by people we often picture as primitive. They weren't primitive at all. They were innovators. And here's the part that should excite you most. So much of Big Ben's deep human past is still largely uncharted. These remote ruins are only just being studied. Who knows what else is waiting out there, hidden in those endless canyons beneath that desert sun. The truth is, we've barely scratched the surface. And Big Ben may still be keeping its biggest secrets, for now. Number 13, the Sanders Caddo Mound Center. Let's journey back to East Texas, to a quiet stretch of land where Bois d'Arc Creek meets the mighty Red River. It looks peaceful today, just a gentle terrace rising above the water. But more than 1,000 years ago, this exact spot was a center of power. This is the Sanders Site, a large, impressive Caddo Mounds center and village, built by the same remarkable people who raised the mounds at Alto. And just like at Alto, this wasn't a random settlement. It was a place of ceremony, leadership, and importance, a beating heart of an organized society that thrived here long before Europeans ever arrived on these shores. Imagine it in its prime. Earthen mounds rising above a bustling village, leaders and priests overseeing rituals, trade goods flowing in and out along the river, people living full, structured lives, building monuments to mark what mattered most to them. The Caddo chose this location carefully, a high terrace, fertile soil, fresh water from the creek, and a powerful river highway right at their doorstep. Everything they needed to build a lasting community. And they did. But here's the haunting thread that ties this site to so many others on our list, and to the biggest mystery of all. Because the Sanders Site, like the Caddo Mounds at Alto, eventually fell silent. The people who built it, who lived and worshipped and raised their families here, moved on. The mounds remain. The story behind their departure did not. And that's the question that keeps echoing through Texas, site after site after site. These were builders, organized, skilled, monument-raising societies. So what happened to them all? Why does the same pattern keep repeating? Flourishing centers that rise, thrive, and then vanish. We're getting closer to the heart of it now. Because the deeper you look across Texas, the more you realize all these mysteries may share one single, chilling answer. Number 14, the symbols we cannot read. Let's come back to something that's been quietly haunting this entire list. The images carved and painted across Texas that, no matter how hard we try, we simply cannot decode. Think back to the places we've already explored, the 1,500 paintings at Paint Rock, the masks of Hueco Tanks, the sprawling murals of the lower Pecos. Spread across these sites, separated by hundreds of miles and thousands of years, are recurring symbols that defy explanation. There's a boat, painted at Paint Rock, far from any water big enough to sail. Why? What did a vessel mean to people living deep inside the Texas landscape? There are strange, repeating shapes of abstract geometry, patterns that show up again and again, clearly meaning something to the people who made them. And everywhere, across nearly every site, you find them. Handprints, pressed against the cold stone. A silent signature from someone who lived, breathed, and dreamed thousands of years ago. Here's the crucial part, and the part that gives this mystery its real weight. These symbols are not random. The fact that they repeat across different cultures and across enormous spans of time tells us they carried shared meaning. A common language of symbols, understood by people who may never have even met. But here's the heartbreaking catch. Unlike ancient Egypt, where the Rosetta Stone finally cracked the code of hieroglyphs, Texas rock art has no key, no translation guide, no surviving dictionary to tell us what any of it means. So we're left in a strange, frustrating place. We can date these images, we can map them, we can stand before them and feel their power. But we may never, ever be able to read them. It's like finding a library full of ancient books, in a language no living person can understand. The words are right there in front of us. The meaning is lost forever, locked away with the people who wrote them. Number 15, the vanishing builders. And now we arrive at the final mystery, the biggest one of all, because this time it isn't a single wall, a cave, or a painting. It's the people themselves. Think back over everything we've uncovered today. The hand-built mounds at Alto, the ceremonial power center at Sanders, and far beyond Texas, all across the American South, ancient societies raised something extraordinary. Flat-top pyramids and massive platform mounds, some dating back thousands of years. Let that sink in. These weren't disorganized wanderers. These were builders, societies that could organize labor, command hundreds of workers, plan ceremonial cities, and move millions of pounds of earth, basket, by hand. They had leaders, they had priests, they had religion, trade, and culture. They built things meant to last forever. And then, they vanished. Site after site after site, the same chilling pattern repeats. Thriving communities, gone. Sacred centers, abandoned. The fires went cold, the villages emptied, and the people simply disappeared from history, often centuries before Europeans ever arrived. They left behind their greatest works and walked away into the unknown. So what happened to them? Researchers have theories, of course. Was it a devastating drought that dried up their water and crops? A wave of disease that swept through their villages? A great migration in search of something better? Or was it war, conflict that tore their world apart? Here's the unsettling truth. No single answer explains it all. No one theory accounts for why so many of these incredible builders vanished, across so many different places and so many different times. The mystery remains wide open, and that in the end is the real mystery of ancient Texas. We can stand on their mounds, we can touch their walls, we can study their art and walk through their ruins. The structures remain, solid, silent, permanent. But the builders? They're gone, and they took their secrets with them. And there you have it, 15 ancient Texas structures that continue to baffle the experts to this very day. From a buried wall that gave a county its name, to masks that have stared out of the darkness for over 1,000 years, to entire civilizations that built wonders and then simply vanished into thin air. The truth is, the more we dig, the more questions we uncover. Texas isn't just big, it's ancient, mysterious, and full of secrets we're only just beginning to understand. Now I want to hear from you. Out of everything we explored today, which mystery gave you chills? Was it the haunting masks of Hueco Tanks, the vanishing mound builders, the buried rock wall? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you've ever actually visited one of these incredible places, tell us your story. We read every single comment. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden past of Texas, do me one quick favor. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. And don't go anywhere just yet, because next, you'll want to watch our video on the lost civilizations of North America. Trust me, it connects so many of the dots from today's story. Just click the screen and let's keep exploring.